For how can any ending be understood without a clear comprehension of its beginning? The summits of existence are only manifested because of the weights they can attain based upon the structures of their foundations. When those weights become too much to bear, the arrangements topple. There are no examples of a thing being able to continue indefinitely in a singular direction, and because there is a lack of comprehension about this law, the systems that blindly barrel forward in a singular direction do so at their own peril. Selfish and individualistic desires can do nothing to thwart this law, and because of an unwillingness to change, the inevitable result is pain. A man is born gentle and weak. At his death, he is hard and stiff. Green plants are tender and filled with sap. At their death, they are withered and dry. Therefore, the stiff and unbending is the disciple of death. The gentle and yielding is the disciple of life. Thus, an army without flexibility never wins a battle. A tree that is unbending is easily broken. The hard and strong will fall. The soft and weak will overcome. This could be correlated with the biblical statement that the meek shall inherit the earth. Mankind has proven today that it is more capable and willing than ever to conquer the earth, destroying species and habitats with cold and calculated precision, all in the name of monetary profit, greed, fame, and insatiable desires. These prophets are worshipped and held in the highest of honors and esteem. The pattern has been clearly established, and if gone completely unchecked, there will be no need to wait upon any outside impending doom. The human species, in the pursuit of abstract wealth, will inevitably consume and destroy its external reality. The notion that technology will save the day forgets itself by not contemplating the fact that it is technology which has been the catalyst for the crisis which it seeks to avert. It forgets that space is akin to health, and instead constructs megacities filled with chaos and congestion, congestion itself being synonymous with illness and pressure. That same pressure is then applied to natural systems which were designed at their root to be balanced, with capabilities to only sustain a certain amount of weight. If that weight is exceeded, the pressures put upon it assuredly collapse the system. The vicious, desire-filled mind continually becomes angered upon hearing this, because it has a voracious and endless appetite. It is constantly seeking the more, and is continuously looking for agreement towards its actions, even defining those same actions as being evolutionary or spiritual. The psychological desire for immortality through technological means or otherwise cannot fathom the consequences that would unfold if this wish were to come true. Why is there this yearning to be in a crowd? To be gathered so tightly that there is barely enough room to move or to breathe freely? There is certainly an idea that can be held in the mind that where there are more people, there is more excitement and opportunity, while nature, space, and isolation are associated with boredom, loneliness, fear, or in a modern sense simply a temporary escape from the madness of a chaotic and overburdened society. Endless growth is a type of oxymoron, in the same way that no mountain has an endless peak or ocean has endless depth. The modern world is built upon a religious concept that there are no real consequences to collective action, And regardless of said actions, all one must do is ask for forgiveness from an eternal authority, and in the end one can be saved. External salvation, however, always comes with a price tag attached to it. As it has been said before, there are no outside saviors. Psychological authority is a myth, and no one should subscribe to anyone, especially those with claims of freedom from ultimates. Unsubscribe to any and all outside psychological authorities. Unsubscribe from this channel. Look at how many are filled with the desire to collect followers and build these petty microscopic empires and organizations to fulfill macroscopic egos. There are no outside saviors, and there never will be. Each of us must find that which is called truth entirely for ourselves. At best, another can indicate, but beyond this, there can only be charlatans, impostors, the self-deluded, or those seeking fame, adoration, riches, and narcissistic pleasures. The reason that any are seeking salvation or guidance is because there is a feeling of being lost, a feeling of confusion as to what this reality is, what it means to be here, and why we are here. Why am I a human being inside of this particular body at this point in time? Everyone with these questions has at some point looked to the so-called experts and authorities. Teachers, parents, scientists, politicians, philosophers, gurus, friends, neighbors, and strangers. Almost anyone who might take a moment to listen and perhaps offer a new or more clarified perspective on this life and give some type of answer that might make some sense for once. Yet, no matter what is heard, that feeling of doubt about it all still lingers. Why any of this? Why the pain, the fears, the turmoil, mixed with scattered pleasures that need to be pursued for some momentary satisfaction that disappears just as quickly as one's next breath? What am I actually doing? Religion, it seems, has also been designed to quell the mind in this regard. Just live your life in all of its randomness, and if you believe in this designated savior figure, you'll go to that other, better place. We promise. Oh, and make sure to bring in more children to this place while you're at it, so that they'll have to do the same thing, while also needing immediate salvation themselves. Why would anyone in their correct mind holding those beliefs bring another being into this reality that they knew was going to be damned upon arrival? The equation of it holds no logic, and the reasons given to satisfy the question of why one chooses to bring more lives into this reality are most certainly rooted in selfishness. Will there truly be no meaning to life and existence without producing another physical being coded to the specifications of one's own particular strain of DNA? This line of questioning may seem nihilistic, anti-natalist, or perhaps pointless to the one listening only upon the surface, but it carries within its philosophic chambers a most important message. No one can unchain themselves from a prison in which they wish to be served by. The truth of this is hidden right in front of us, and yet it might as well exist in another world. Who really wants to comprehend that certain mechanisms highly sought after and held in such great esteem are the same forces keeping one tethered here? As was already stated, a path can be indicated, but it will never be stated that anyone should walk it. Salvation is a personal journey, and every life lived is simply an opportunity for an opportunity. The narrow gate is very slim indeed, and very few ever find its pathless entry. Fewer still walk through. Duality is a never-ending prison sentence, and as it has been said before, the only way to leave the prison is to neutralize it. It is our very selves that are both prisoner and guard. There is a power that is at work against all of us, and it uses its efforts on every individual, regardless of any belief in it or not. For a life that was created to be royal, it took so little to dissolve that lineage, and then be caught in this world of conflicts and egotism. This passage is so critically important. The word naked is not to be taken literally. It is again symbolic of perception. It is to ask, who was the one that convinced you that you were not enough? Who told you that you needed something more to be added onto you? The perception being that you were naked without acquiring what was being offered. The comparative aspects of the Quran and the Bible are quite blatant. The identity of the adversary of humanity is broadened by this understanding, and this comprehension will be brought to light even more within this study. It becomes apparent upon close examination that we as a human species were exiled from our royal lineage through the desire of knowledge and power. The agent known as Iblis deceived the root of humanity through subtle persuasion that we were somehow naked by not somehow being something more. To eat from the tree of knowledge of both good and evil was to take in a gift of divided awareness, which then led to being exiled to the earth, which is a place of living, dying, and being reincarnated. A place where we certainly are enemies to each other. There is no straightness in our path when following a highway of duality. The user is the used. The persuasion of the Shining One involved a promise to be immortal and to be like God, but the reality is that we are caught in a false cycle of immortality, a figure-8 loop of endless births and deaths. The concept of progress becomes a simulation, akin to building a house which upon completion is immediately burned down, over and over again. It's technically true that no one dies, since death is simply a gateway to the next reincarnation, but it is still clearly a deception. The generated vehicle which encases the soul will certainly die, and along with it the memories and biologically learned experiences which are contained within the bodily hardware that is called the brain. Carrying these memories and everything that goes along with them, such as learned abilities, would be equivalent to carrying the hard drive of one's computer into the next life. This is, of course, impossible. The only aspects which can be carried with the individual being are those things which become imprinted on the soul. These are what have been called the treasures of heaven. What is also unfortunate is the gross misunderstanding of these religious texts and the fact that there is such obvious parallels between what are called completely different religions and holy books. Despite the correlations, there is obviously an enormous amount of contention between followers of these faiths due to egotism, mental and spiritual ineptitude, and of course, hubris. The characters and players are all the same in these symbolic stories, and it is humanity that is being played for fools. There are those that have taken it upon themselves to despise our creation, and these beings have been misleading our spirit for too many eons to count. Instead of working together as a species for a common good, isolated individualism and personal advantage are unfortunately seen by the divided human mind as the only legitimate means to exist within these Ouroboros life cycles. The individual deludes him and herself with talk of love when the only means to wish the best for one's own children or other loved ones is to take advantage of others. This delusion can be maintained by thinking that there is a general cooperation amongst the citizens within a society, but this cooperation is simply coerced through the forces and structure of commerce and government, which contains within its blueprints the very definitions of selfish personalized advantage and the worship of competition and rivalry. When those structures are not enough, the confinements of governmental laws keeps its citizenry in line with one another for the most part. Cooperative competition is in essence another oxymoron. When asked what this life is all about, the term once again spells it out for us. It must be asked then, who created these systems? The systems of law, commerce, education, government, language, and religion. In order to find the answer to any question as broad and as important as this, is to look to the beginning of our existence, to the root and the source of the question itself, to the point where these structures of control were first put into place. Taken from an evolutionary standpoint, this conversation is already over before it even begins. There is essentially nothing to talk about, and science has pretty much figured out how we got here, with intelligent creation being taken completely out of the equation. The mentation of scientists and evolutionists is a fantastic example of hubris at work, peppered with notes of mockery towards any who consider something else might be at play in all of our lives. Something which has once again been hidden in plain sight. The myths, stories, and esoteric symbols throughout history are said to be alluding to our transition from the more primitive caveman mentality into the broader and self-aware consciousness to which man currently employs. Iblis and God are nothing more than metaphors, and it is said that there are no unseen forces at play in any of our lives. Only our primitive imaginations at work, still dealing with the fear of the dark and the unseen predators in the night that may be coming for us in our former cave dwellings that we evolved from. It is a neat and tidy explanation that is able for the most part to quash the pursuit of those who would like to seek answers to why we have consciousness and other mysteries of life and this reality. Plato's allegory of the cave is thus turned into a symbol of mental evolution, and the surface seeker of truth breathes a sigh of relief about it and moves on with their existence. But truth of any kind is a far more sensitive responsibility, and those more properly attuned to their inner state know that these explanations are a false front. The origin of humanity is told in the same symbolic form in the Chiron, the Holy Bible, and the Gnostic texts. The name of the book in the Bible is Genesis, which is a name that is packed with language angles. To deny the existence of a language key and its revelations of hidden meanings is to deny the entire existence of anything that is occult and hidden, and these works are not meant for those people. Those who mock and ridicule these findings are automatically declaring for themselves that their fate is to be locked into duality and the cycle of reincarnations. So mote it be. The key, however, still creates the revelation. Genesis has at its root the jinn. This can be spelled also as the jinn or jinn. Gen and jinn are related in etymology, with the obvious relation to the alcoholic drink of the same name. The jinn were known as beings made from smokeless fire, which made them fire spirits. Not by coincidence, alcohol is known as firewater, and a synonym for alcohol is spirits, which indicates that the firewater which humans consume is directly linked with the spiritual world, a world that is unseen by the human senses in this world. The garden contained the instructor, known as the Shining One, Nakash, or Serpent in the Garden. Many translators have interpreted the serpent deity in the garden to be an instructor, the one who instructed Eve to eat from the infamous tree. Genesis is an origin story, and the name truly does have many angles to it. The story of the fall has Iblis stating that whosoever takes in of the fruit of his tree shall be like gods and have knowledge of both good and evil. Genesis is thus truly the story of Jinn-gnosis. Prometheus gives fire to man, which is simply the same story. In accepting this supposed gift of the jinn and adding fire into our being, the humans became like these supposed gods. Since it is knowledge that was given, this means that it's the structure of our minds that has been altered. A curse is placed upon humanity at this point. It's also quite important to read into what is not stated in this passage. Lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life. This clearly indicates that it was from the tree of death that man and woman were seduced into eating from. That is to say, the tree of time. The tree of Saturn, which is a cannibal that eats its own children. This seduction was a sales pitch, and this aspect of usury is seen daily in the activities of man, seducing one another, using mental manipulation, coercion, trickery, and all kinds of tactics to acquire selfish advantages. All of this comes from the mind of the jinn, which has been gifted to each of us. It is, of course, no gift at all, because our gifted divided mind simply keeps all of us in competition with one another, while the source of our imprisonment remains hidden and the operations of this system continue unabated. Look at it all. It is an endless fight with ourselves. Humans at war with humans. Look at how winning competitions over your fellow man is worshipped and even seen as inspiring. There is nothing truly inspiring about this at all. It is an abomination of the spirit. These entities, which exist outside of the margins of our visible sight, control the whole world, and everyone is simply blinded to it because of silly ambitions or false spiritual goals. Those created from the essence of an element are more apt to be worshipped as the gods of it. Fire creates light, and it is knowledge which is said to create enlightenment. There is an enormity of evidence to show that organizations such as Freemasonry are at the top levels organized by the so-called Sons of Light, or the Sons of Samael. Samael means blind god, which is what Isis, Pistis Sophia, called the demiurge, who believed itself to be the one and only true almighty god. Isis, the mother of all, is of course embedded into our origin. Genesis through another angle becoming Jinn Isis. Isis is the virgin mother of creation that gives birth to the savior figure. This passage tells us two things: that the mother of all created the incorruptible man from herself, correlating with every story that talks about a virgin mother, and that corruptible aspects arise from realms that are finite. The incorruptible became corrupt through eating of the tree of death, which is a finite form. One angle of the biblical title has already been postulated by certain researchers, that of Genesis being the genes of Isis. This would account for the story of Isis, who is seeking to once again bring together her king Osiris. From the genes of Isis is created the light of the world. The details of this are explained more thoroughly in the work The Earth is the Heart. The name Freemason is said to be derived from the Egyptian free, meaning the sun, and mas, which means a child. Freemason gives to us children of the sun, or the sons of light. As was stated by Manly P. Hall, the sons of fire would of course be the sun or light, and they are the descendants of Samael, whom Isis Pistis Sophia called the blind god. The sons of fire, which are certainly the jinn made of smokeless fire, are said to be foreign to this place, coming from a far different star. This earth is a burden to them, and this is corroborated in the Gnostic texts as well. So it can be seen that the archons of darkness put a curse on Adam, which is the curse of the Garden of Eden, upon which they are caused to fall out of the garden of the higher heavens by Isis and cast down to earth, which is also the dwelling place of the now changed Adam. The phoenix mentioned is symbolic of that which binds the curse to this earthly state, while the 1,000 years is correlate to the 1,000 years mentioned in the biblical book of Revelation. The symbol of the phoenix has been correlated with the symbols of the events of 9/11 in previous works, and a transition of ages. Each age marked by two phoenixes at roughly 1,000 years apiece. This is heavily symbolized by the double-headed phoenix and the changing of the crowns to herald a new ruler in a new age. Current events are perfectly symbolizing this as well, with many who are doing their research already being aware that corona translates from the Latin as crown. A new lord of the next age is being crowned. It will remain symbolic of this until humanity changes its own situation and rises from the ashes of its current state to become master and crown of its own destiny. Until then, every age will be marked by a transition to a new ruler that comes from the lineage of the Elohim, one of the chosen sons of light whom changes the age to resemble their own personal desires and means of wielding power over us. For the skin of the old age shall be shed like a snake, and it will evolve into the new. This new age will be built by the fires of technology, while the one we are exiting was controlled by a demiurge that manipulated the populace largely through the fear of the fires of hell, with a transition phase that utilized the fires of industry. There is, of course, no rejoicing about this new age for those who choose to still see things for what they are. High technology does not actually set anyone free, but simply imprisons us in a different manner. It is not a mindless force that has set all of this up, but one of true genius. Not coincidentally again, the jinn is where the root of the word genius is derived, and also that of genie, pointing towards their innate magical nature. They are the creators of our world languages, which is why the language key is truly a golden web interlocking them all through the eons of time. They are the creators and controllers of far more, but most importantly, they are the cause of our curse, which is the divided mind that created the concept of time within the fabric of our being. They truly gave us fire, as told in the mythology of Prometheus, who becomes chained to a rock, which simply symbolizes the rock known as Earth. Fire is their mind, which is the reason that the depiction of Adam being granted the touch of God is painted as a brain. They gave us their mind. They are not from here and we are not of them, and they have been confined to this realm for the reasons stated. Though a burden, they prefer to control their situation, and that means controlling us. It is only a burden in the same sense that a prison guard is tethered to the same building as the prisoners they are watching. Because it is their mind that we have been given, each time any of us comes close to the truth of the matter, they use their own mind to create confusion among us, to argue with each other instead of cooperating. Never does this species then see how it is being eternally imprisoned. How true it is that the mind we have been given, which is their mind, will hear these things and use ad hominem insults and threats against those who reveal these things. It will call all of this deluded or fictional, the work of someone who can imagine far too much with no concrete evidence. Yet, the concrete evidence is everywhere we look. It is in the very fabric and nature of the control mechanisms that are put upon us, and the state of our divided minds themselves. Man at war with man forever and ever. That is the proof. There is so much hatred for one another with a thin cover of civility. The evolutionist dismisses all of this with their claims that we have simply not evolved enough to create a fully cooperative society, and that competition, religion, superstition, and exclusivity are the properties of a primal state which we still carry within us. The thought that humanity is imprisoned and being used for energy in the same way that man imprisons and slaughters countless numbers of animals is seen as absurd and a form of lunacy. Only mankind has the right to mercilessly slaughter less civilized forms of consciousness for its consumptive pleasure, right? The realms of the external are within each of us, and no individual exists as a separated island. The ways in which humanity uses each other are both seen and unseen in an orchestra of controlled chaos. For this reason, it is not the person who has nothing to lose in this system that is to be feared, but all those who believe they have something to gain.